Do you think it takes a certain type of person to be able to kind of handle that level of fear as well, chucking yourself in a really heavy object, moving, 130, 40 miles an hour down a hill?
Yeah, I joked with the person that recruited me and Misha McNeil. I remember her saying to me, there should be a personality test before you become a bobsleigh pilot. And now I fully understand what she means, because it's so much more than just being a good physical athlete. Definitely feeling that fear and embracing it, but doing everything you need to do regardless of that is a skill. Standing on the block is a scary thing to do, especially when you're there with somebody relying on you to get them down safely. Also, when it's live, and if something goes wrong, everybody that's watching is going to see, and you've got people that care about you and love you watching that. I'm still very new as well, so I'm sure that people that are far more experienced than me maybe are a little more settled than I am, but a lot of things are still really new to me. I haven't yet completed all of the tracks in the world, so some of them are more new than others, and there's so much to learn that you're standing on top of the block thinking about X, Y, and Z, and there's 20 corners and so many possibilities for errors that you just have to stay so focused.
And do you do anything like racing drivers do, like visualizing the course before you go down?
Yes, so there's actually point of view videos on YouTube which will show you the track from either the perspective of somebody walking down the track, or someone will have attached a camera to the front of a sled, and then you'll see what it's like at speed. So we use those videos a lot for visualizations, but we also just use our own memory, because it's all to do with feedback. It's all to do with feel. It's not a steering wheel. You've got a right hand ring and you've got a left hand ring, and they are attached to the steering mechanism with wire and bungee. And it's the feedback that you feel on that elastic of the bungee that can help you know when you're in neutral, know how much pressure you've got in your hand. And I always talk about driving a bobsleigh, not necessarily like turn left, turn right. It's more about manipulating pressure.
Okay.
Because the profile of a track doesn't change, but how the sled responds will change depending on how early you enter the corner, how late you enter the corner, if you've taken a tap, a skid, or whatever it is before you've got to that corner, then depending on how the sled goes in, it will react differently. Mm-hmm. But you need to know that profile of that corner to know how the sled will react. And I think there's always that plan A with the visualization of, okay, plan A, I enter perfectly on every single corner and I'll do this. But realistically, you need to know what your plan A, B, C, D is for all the different potential lines that you could take. And that's when driving becomes reactive. And I believe that's, when you build up years and years of experience and skill, that's when you become a really good driver.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like reaction speed is extremely important and very fast decision making.
Yeah, definitely. The information processing side of things is huge in what we do.
And then, if I check my notes, I believe back in 2020, when you were first trying to get into the bobsleigh team, you had to lose 3 stone in a year.
Yeah.
And the thought that came into my head when I first read that fact is like, how did you do that without losing all your muscle and your power? Was there a specific regime you had to follow?
So back then, I just think back now and it makes me smile, because I think I must have been slightly, not delusional, but slightly crazy, optimistic, whatever you want to call it, to believe that I could achieve the things that I have, because I was in no position to, think that was going to be an easy task. In 2020, I moved when I found out what bobsleigh was and got the opportunity to give it a go. Yes, I sat 20 kilos heavier than what I would be now to race, and like I said to you, I think I was in a position where I was waiting for the right thing to give me purpose. And I genuinely believe that when you find your purpose and when you feel like you have meaning, then you are so driven, you become so much more powerful. And I didn't know where it was going to take me at that time, but it was the first challenge that had come my way that I think was really going to test how much I wanted it, because we all know how hard it is to lose weight. We're not just talking a few pounds or a couple of kilos. Like 3 stone's a significant amount. And it's not, like you said, it's not like I was seriously overweight.
Yeah,
and
you didn't exactly have excess fat to drop.
Yeah, like it wasn't like I was seriously overweight and losing 3 stone meant I was still overweight. It was that I was in a position where I was a strong girl in sport who needed to get really lean and kind of redesign my body composition.
I mean, completely overhaul it by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So I then was working full-time in Cardiff. I'd moved to Cardiff University. I was working full-time, and I realised that there was no way that I could still work full-time because I needed to travel. If I wanted to commit to bobsleigh, I needed to travel for 6 months, and no job was going to allow me to do that at that point. I mean, now there's a lot of people that can work remotely, but at that time it was only a COVID thing.
Yeah.
So no one was going to take me on at that point to work remotely, with that being my plan. And I moved back to Mid Wales, and I moved back in with my parents. And I think that was so scary because I think I had just imagined that once I'd moved out and I'd gone to university, that was it. You know, I was going to live my own life and visit them at Christmas. And but yeah, I moved back in, and it meant that I had to give up my job in Cardiff, gave up my really nice flat in Cardiff at the time, you know, my lifestyle, like my friends that all lived there, just to pursue this dream. And I did my master's degree in psychology, finished that in the December of 2020. And then over the summer, whilst I was living at home in Welshpool, I thought, right, I need to get some money. I still had, you know, my car to pay for, my phone to pay for. So I actually started working on bank shifts, which means you can just pick up shifts here and there, but you're on a 0-hour contract in psychiatric hospitals.
Okay.
So I was working in psychiatric hospitals on 12-hour shifts to try and get some money to fund my Olympic dream. Meanwhile, I was obviously losing the weight I needed to. And I think I didn't have the money to pay a nutritionist at the time. I didn't have the money to pay a coach, but I had a small amount of money that I thought I can either invest this into paying for a coach for a few months, or I invest this into courses and learn the information, because once I've learned it. Yeah. Whereas like it would run out after a few months of putting it into somebody else. So I actually ended up doing my level 4 in nutrition and my level 3 personal training qualifications. And I programmed for myself to go to the Olympic Games.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah. It's crazy, really. And I think obviously along the way I've had so much help over the years from different physios. Like I'd worked with other coaches in athletics before. There was one physio that was kind of helping out the bobsleigh team at the time. He's called Jack, and he was really, really helpful. I used to show him what I'd got, and it still makes me laugh because he used to be like, "Why are you doing bicep curls?" And I used to think, well, I don't know really. I thought like the way that my brain worked at the time, it was like, I'm like, well, still now, I'm quite OCD. So it's like I wanted to target every single part of my body. And he was like, you don't need to do that. So yeah, it was a really tough time, but I just, it was one of those things, I think when you've not got a choice, you just do.
And what was your nutrition like then to shed all that weight and keep the muscle?
It was really, really restrictive at the start because I think I just wanted to get down to my goal as quickly as possible, but I was still needing to fuel. Mm. So when I say restrictive, I was still having what I needed to have, but I cut out absolutely everything that was no good for me completely. Like I just cut it out completely. And I was walking so much that I think...
What, to get steady state cardio in?
Yeah, I've never been a jogger. I've never, ever been able to enjoy endurance running, although I wish I could. It's just not what I've trained for.
You're a natural sprinting type instead?
Yeah, and I've been training this way since I was 9 years old, so I think it's really difficult to try and embrace a nice jog when it's just not what my body wants to do. So yeah, I carried on with my normal training regime with the power things, and I just added in so much walking.
Right.
But I think that's where COVID was useful for the place that I needed to be at, because everything else was shut down, the minimal distractions,
Yeah.
and walking was fun.
Do you think it would have been different if it hadn't have been COVID? I mean, obviously a lot more temptation to like go out and have fun like a normal person your age at the time.
Yeah.
But it sounds actually like you found your purpose, as you said. That was your Olympic dream. There's nothing that was going to take you off that path.
Yeah. Upon reflection, I can definitely be accountable for making decisions that weren't necessarily aligned to my goal. I'll never say that I made wrong decisions because for going out and partying, because that's what a lot of people my age would have been doing, but it didn't align with becoming an Olympic athlete. And I was trying to wear too many hats. I was trying to fulfill every purpose possible, and it was like not going to get me where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And as soon as I, and yes, because obviously COVID shut the world down and was an awful time for so many people, that isolation gave me time to think about what my priorities were, reprioritize things, and realize that I needed to find my purpose, not try and fulfill multiple other people's purposes. You know.
And so now that you've reached your Olympic goal, how does that feel looking back at those days when you were sacrificing so many things to get there?
It's honestly just unbelievable. I get overwhelmed when I think about it because it seemed so far away at that time, and I've honestly just, the way I've gotten through is just with the process goals, always knowing like what I really wanted to achieve was to be at the very top of my game. And just be competitive with the best athletes in the world. But you don't do that overnight. And I think it can become overwhelming if you think about that. And if it's quite far away, whatever your end goal is. So process goals and daily goals was and is the way that I get through everything.
So by process goals, do you mean like, this is my training program, I'm going to stick to that, trust the process, and it'll reach the end goal?
Yeah, like I have a program for 6 weeks, do that. Keep a diary. This is the goal. These are the things I need to achieve this week. This is what I want to achieve by the end of this block. What does the next block look like? Okay, well, the Olympic Games is this date. Let's work backwards. What do I want to achieve between then? What would I consider successful? What would I be really unhappy with? Just making sure that you've got a clear plan and identifying what it is that you want to achieve. Yeah. Because if you don't know that, if you only have one end goal and you have no idea how you're going to get there, then that's when you can get lost. And I think that's where I was at.
Yeah. Or if you're kind of starting out in something and thinking, this is good, I'm going to pursue it, but not really having thought what the actual big end goal is, then you kind of get lost halfway in between, don't you?
It's really like sport is so much like business. You would not start a business without having a business plan.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same. Like, you can't have a successful business without that plan, and you can't become a successful athlete without a plan.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy, actually. Yeah, you've got to treat any goal like it is a business that you're starting up if you really want to actually give yourself the best chances of hitting it in the long run. I'd love to also actually talk a bit more about mindset and going through all that training and all those years of working towards your goal, as we've just spoken about. Has there been anything that you kind of say to yourself, perhaps when motivation's lacking a bit or you're kind of struggling to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like any kind of mindset tips or tools that you've used that could maybe help other people?
Yes, I think that I did my master's degree in psychology, and a lot of that was around different methods of motivation with self-talk, extrinsic motivations, tangible motivations. But one thing that I feel like I've learned just from doing is to be okay with the fact that some things that will happen aren't fun and they aren't good. And it's okay to know that not everything that's going to happen will be good. I think the moment that you think everything has to be positive, you then almost you have a sense of entitlement that you deserve everything to be good. And when bad things happen, then you really struggle to process why that's happened to you. I don't deserve this. And I think multiple bad things have happened to me, and I don't think I'm a bad person. Like, it's not my karma, it's not, but why me? It's bad stuff happens, and that's okay. And I think it's controversial because I understand why people would use a saying such as, when life gives you lemons, turn it into lemonade. But for me, I prefer when life gives you lemons, get better at stomaching the lemons.
Well, that's a fantastic quote. I'm definitely going to use that after.
It's just my favourite because for me, that resonates really well. Other people might not feel the same, but you ask me how I feel like I've got to where I am now. And I've had multiple setbacks or multiple hurdles to get over, and I've never felt entitled to anything. And I know that I have to work for absolutely everything. And sometimes, even if you do put 100% effort in, even if you've done everything, even if you've spent an hour journaling before bed and writing all your gratitude down, and you've said all your pleases and thank yous, some stuff still is going to happen that isn't good. And that's okay. It's so unrealistic to expect life to be good all the time. And I think when you're at that place, then you deal with the setbacks so much easier because you're not, programming yourself to think everything has to be good.
I think that's so true, actually. So many people, especially nowadays, kind of think if one little thing goes wrong, the universe is telling me that this is the wrong path and I need to chuck in the towel and do something else. And that's probably part of the reason why so many people don't follow through and actually end up being successful in whatever they're pursuing.
Yes, and people always talk about believe in the process and then, they are only happy when things go good. But then when things go bad, they don't know what to do or how to deal with it. But realistically, if you are truly believing in your process and your journey, then you need to understand that that's part of it. And I personally think that when you are struggling to get through tough times, you have to remember that adversity is a strength. So if you have good mental toughness, you've got good resilience, going through things that are there to throw you off or set you back, getting through them, coming out the other side, learning how to deal with them, acquiring the skills it takes to get through them, means that adversity can become your strength. And without going through tough times, you can't build your resilience. So sometimes, not that you wish them, but welcome them.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant advice, actually. But then I think it also takes practice to accept this and sort of see a bad thing as something I can actually turn into a positive and use and learn.
Yeah. It's very easy for me to say, just do this. It's as easy as this. But no, I'm 20 years down the line and this is what I've learned along the way to become a professional athlete.
And do you think that's a way of thinking that a lot of professional athletes have in common? Or do you think, you're the first person I've actually heard speak like that, so maybe it is just an Adele thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody has their own things that get them to where they need to be in their own weaknesses, their own strengths. I think that we have to remember that we are athletes, but we're humans, so we're all very individually programmed. But I think that from the turnaround I had from 2020 to now made me strip everything back and really work on solid foundations. And I think if I had to say to someone what would be the key things about transforming yourself into who you need to be or just becoming who you want to be, accountability is everything. And just understanding that, again, other people have different opinions, but for me, when people struggle to process bad things that happen to them or bad things that happen to people around them, even though you are not to blame for what has happened, you're responsible to how you respond. Yeah. It's your responsibility to take in all of the information, all of the stimulus around you and respond accordingly. And I think that that's where, if you're not strong in that area, some things can really throw you off and become a blocker because you get really stuck on the differentiating cause, blame, responsibility. I think accountability will change a lot of things for a lot of people if used in the right way. I think people struggle to think that them getting really sick or an injury happening to them is their responsibility, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that an injury or an illness or just something going wrong is not your fault and you're not to blame for that, but you're responsible for how you handle that and how you respond. And you're responsible for, I think emotions are all really good to feel the anger, feel the frustration, feel the upset, and then deal with it.
Yeah. And That's made me think about in the height of competition or when you're at the top of the slope about to hurtle your way down. Obviously, there's going to be a certain level of fear there.
Oh, yeah, that's it. And my teammates will have seen me cry. They will have seen me laugh. We see every emotion of each other. And I'm not sat here saying I'm perfect, I'm a tough robot. Absolutely not. I'm actually saying completely the opposite. I'm a human who cries and gets angry and feels down some days, doesn't feel motivated. But through it all, I then respond accordingly and think, okay, well, despite this, I know what I want to achieve. And to achieve that, I have to do X, Y, and Z. So regardless of how upset I am, I've got to pull my socks up and keep on going.
Yeah. Would you say that injury is something that would really challenge you in that regard? Because obviously a lot of athletes will see injury as a massive setback and it just throws everything off and you could easily get into this emotional state and not take accountability for your own emotions around the feeling of being injured. Because I think, check my notes again, you've had a few ankle and toe injuries on the bobsleigh. Tell me a bit about that.
Every year is a learning year, no matter how far down the line you are. 3 days before the World Cup season was about to start, I rolled my ankle and ruptured my ATFL ligament. And that ligament is responsible for the stability in the ankle. So for somebody who was about to go on to ice,
slightly important.
it was important. So as you can imagine, that was a really scary time because that was the Olympic qualification period. That was supposed to be me continuing the successful season we'd had the year before. It was supposed to be everything that it wasn't in the end, which is okay. But wow, last year taught me so much. And I knew at the time, I just knew when I felt so rubbish, but I just knew there was a feeling inside that I knew that I was going to look back and that was going to be one of the most important years of my career. I just knew because it was so tough. It challenged me mentally and physically more than any other season I'd experienced. Because I then rehabbed and was so vigilant in that and disciplined that I got back from a rupture onto ice, running at the World Cup within 12 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing. And then because of the time I'd spent off my feet, everything felt a bit unfamiliar. I mistimed my load on the first race that I had back.
What does that mean exactly if you mistimed your load?
So if you're loading into a sled, so as a pilot, you're running on the side. As a brakewoman, you're running on the back. And you have to time the steps.
Right.
So because when I'm loading from the side, I cross my hands over and then I need to take off with my legs. But what had happened is I'd done an extra cycle. And by that point, you're at a very awkward angle. And the runner blade cut my left foot open. And I just got out of the cast of my right foot. So that was after 12 to 13 weeks of rehab on my right foot. And this is where we talk about just, that wasn't my fault, let's say. I mean, you could probably put a little bit more blame on me there. But in terms of why has this happened to me? Who knows? It happened. It was a freak accident. It happened. We could probably go and back and forth all day of why it happened, but it happened.
But what's the point? It's happened.
What's the point? It's happened. And the problem is when you're doing bobsleigh, you're not on a pitch and you're not on the track, so you can't just stop. So I've jumped in and driven down one of the hardest tracks in the world, which was Altenburg in Germany. I had never driven a 2-woman sled down that track before this week. And I was obviously in a lot of pain, a little bit of shock, a lot of adrenaline. And all I knew I needed to do was get down safely because on top of cutting my foot open, I did not want to crash. And at that point, it was a crazy sensation because I'm the only person in the world at that point that knew what was happening. Because when we got to the bottom, my teammate said she felt like we went over a speed bump. And I was like, yeah, that was my foot.
Oh, wow.
That was my foot. And we got out at the bottom and I think I was in a bit of shock still because I kind of just looked down at my foot and my my shoe had been cut open and...
So blood everywhere.
Yeah. And then anyway, I went to hospital in Germany. I had to have it cleaned and stitched back together because I am so lucky that I did not really damage anything because it was just a flesh wound in the end.
Oh,
but
thank God for that.
It was so close to my big toe that I dread to think like what could have happened. But anyway, I was then out for another 4 or 5 weeks. And this was my Olympic campaign season.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, just mentally, after getting through all that rehab with my first injury, I was just so flat. But what can you do? It was done. And I used all of the skills. I called upon those things when I was in that position, and that's what got me through. And then we managed to make it through to the end of the season. I don't know how we did it. We still managed to get the qualifications we needed for the games. We kept fighting, we dug in. And then we had a horrendous time with equipment at the World Championships. It was I learned a lot there. We ended up racing with damaged equipment. And it was, I was sharing a sled, and unfortunately the other team that I was sharing the sled with had crashed in the sled. And once carbon fiber gets damaged, it's broken and it's no longer fit for purpose, but we had no choice. So we put tape on it. We quite literally
really
duct taped my sled together. We stood on the line knowing, after seeing in training, that the times were really slow. And this was a track that I'd won a medal on the year before. I knew that I was confident with the track. I enjoyed the track. There's so many things that can go wrong, and I hate the thought of blame. I'm like, this was the situation. These were the cards I was dealt. This is how I played them. Couldn't have done anything more. It is what it is, and I learned so much from it.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've got like bad luck or any of that.
No, everyone was like, gosh, you're so unlucky, this, that, and the other. Yeah, it does seem that way. And it does seem that, I'm having a few setbacks more than others, but I'm dealing with it.
Or it could just be that you're in a sport that's
dangerous.
Accidents happen and you're driving this intricate machinery and there are sharp blades and you're going at speeds where you could potentially hurt yourself. It's just, it's fact.
One of those things. Yeah. I'm putting myself in environments where that is part of the risk. And I just think that I have so much peace in knowing that whatever comes my way, I'll do my best to handle it.
And so how are you feeling now about the Winter Olympics in February next year? I'm
very excited to get back on ice. We leave in the next couple of weeks.
Oh wow, really soon.
Yeah. So I'm confident that the team has done everything they can do this summer. The break girls who are part of my team have been working relentlessly. I've done everything I can do. I feel like I needed to look at everything that there was to exhaust in all areas of services that were available, from your psychology, nutrition, your S&C, technical things. I have made sure that I've exhausted each option, and I just want to be able to go to Milan, be at the Olympic Games, standing on the start block, knowing that I've done absolutely everything I could have done. The decisions I made were all aligned to that day, all aligned to be standing on that block in the best place possible. And I feel like we're on the way to that.
Amazing. And I think I saw in an interview that you did once that you said the way that you know that you're on it in the moment is that you see everything in HD. I love that. Is that right?
I know. I don't even know where that came from, but it was on. I said to my coach last year, I felt it the year before, and I thought, I'm not going to say that sounds silly. And then this year, I just said it out loud to my coach. I said, do you know what? Like, when I first started and people spoke about how, obviously, we're moving so fast. People spoke about when you're more experienced, it kind of slows down. And I said, yeah, but it kind of feels like it's in HD.
But slow down at the same time.
Yeah, like I've got more time, I can see what's going on. But realistically, it's moving so fast. But when I'm rested, when I'm confident, when I'm happy, yeah, the track is in HD. So I can't ask for more than Milan Cortina to be in HD.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. And we're starting to run out of time. I can't believe how quickly that's gone. But just to end on a final question, because I feel like you've got so much wisdom to give. I want to get the last little bits out of you. If you had, we'll just go for one piece of advice for any young girl wanting to do big things in sport and go after their dream, what would you tell them?
I think I've probably touched on it already, but make sure that you've found your purpose, because when you know what your purpose is, you have such a greater meaning to your life. And I feel like you can have multiple purposes, because I value my family. Like, my family and health comes first in everything. But my other purpose that I've found that I'm happy with is to be the best athlete that I can be, representing my country, my family, my heritage, my sponsors, representing them on a global stage at the pinnacle of my industry. That is my purpose, and it's what drives me. It's what got me to the gym at 5:15 this morning before coming down to London. But seriously, it's whatever gets you out of bed at 5:15 in the morning, and you're happy to do so. It's your purpose, and I think finding your purpose is one thing, and then remembering that it's not all about turning lemons into lemonade. It's about learning to stomach lemons better. And I think that is, for me, one of the most important things, because it's not saying that you're doom and gloom, but it's saying that bad things are inevitable. Everybody goes through some kind of stress in life. So if we can just accept it, embrace it a little bit more, and just be okay with that happening, then you're far more likely to come out the other side. So...
Well, I think you've got an amazing way of looking at life and looking at your sport. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the best at the Olympics.
Thank you.